Have you ever heard a story that sounds almost too good to be true? Well, we're going to talk about one of those today. It's a journey that literally starts on the floor of a tiny apartment in India and ends up in the CEO's office of, well, one of the biggest companies on the planet. This is the story of how one kid's fascination with technology completely changed everything. Okay, so picture this. It's 1984. And this boy, his name is Sundar Pichai. He has absolutely no clue that he's on a path that's going to lead him to run Google. I mean, he's just a kid, but he's about to be at the center of how we all use technology every single day. So that's the big question, right? How in the world does that happen? How do you go from that kind of background to the very, very top of the tech world? Well, let's get into it. All right, so the first big moment, the first spark, it's not what you'd think. It wasn't some fancy computer or anything like that. Nope. It was way simpler, and it all started when he was just a kid. Back in 1982, his family finally got a rotary phone. And for Sundar, this thing wasn't just a cool new toy. It was like a light bulb went off. He even said it himself. It showed him the power of what was possible with tech. And here's where it gets real. Look at this. Before they had the phone, getting his mom's test results meant a 4-hour round trip on a bus. 4 hours. Can you imagine? Then, boom, the phone arrives. And that whole ordeal, it becomes a 10-minute phone call. For Sundar, this was it. This was the moment he realized technology wasn't about gadgets. It was about making people's lives better. And that idea, it stuck with him for good. Okay, so that spark lit a fire in him, for sure. But to get to the next level, well, his family had to make a massive, absolutely high-stakes bet on him. And Sundar delivered. The guy was super ambitious, and he worked like crazy. He crushed it at the prestigious IIT in India, which is also where he met his future wife, Anjali. And all that hard work paid off big time. He landed a scholarship to Stanford. Stanford, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. But there was a catch. The scholarship was amazing, but it didn't cover everything. He still had to get there. And a one-way plane ticket to America? $1,000. Okay, let's just pause on that number for a second. $1,000. That was more than his dad made in a whole year. They even tried to get a loan and were denied. So what did his dad do? He pulled the money from their entire life savings. He bet everything on his son. Just think about the pressure Sundar must have been feeling at that moment. So 1993, Sundar makes it to America. And what happens next? A whole lot of culture shock, a pretty unforgettable job interview, and an idea that was about to completely reshape the internet as we know it. And yeah, that culture shock hit him right away. I mean, he needed a backpack for school, right? He sees one for $60. To us, that's a backpack. To him, that was a whole month's salary for his dad back home. Every single dollar he spent, he felt the weight of his family's huge sacrifice. Then comes his big break, an interview at Google. And you won't believe this, it was on April Fool's Day. So the interviewers asked him about this brand new thing called Gmail, which had literally launched that same morning. Sundar, having no clue it was real, just thought it was a classic Google prank. But here's the key part. Instead of trying to bluff his way through it, he was just honest. He was confused. And the interviewers loved it. They called it intellectual humility. And just like that, he was in. So now he's at Google, and right away he spots this massive hole in their strategy. He's like, wait a minute, why don't we have our own web browser? He pitches the idea, but the CEO at the time, Eric Schmidt, just shoots it down. The reason? Too costly. But Sundar didn't just drop it. Nope. He kept pushing, built a stronger argument, and eventually he got the yes he was looking for. And the result? Google Chrome. Just look at these numbers from 2012. It wasn't just a hit, it was a total game changer. Chrome completely took over, crushing the competition. That too costly idea, it ended up being one of Google's greatest victories. So hitting a home run like Chrome, that put Sundar on the super fast track at Google. His climb up the ladder after that was, well, it was unbelievably fast. I mean, this timeline really tells the story. He gets hired in 2004. Just 4 years later, he launches Chrome. 5 years after that, he's in charge of all of Android. A year later, bam, he's product chief, running almost every major Google service you can think of. And then, in 2015, get this, only 11 years after he started, he becomes the CEO. Let that sink in. Even before he was officially the CEO, he was already running the parts of Google that are Google to you and me. We're talking search, maps, Android, Chrome, Gmail, the whole shebang. The core of the company was pretty much already his to manage. So after proving himself over and over and over again, The next move was almost a given. And that $1,000 bet his father made all those years ago, it was about to pay off in the biggest way imaginable. And then it happened. October 2nd, 2015. It's official. Sundar Pichai, the kid who was mesmerized by a simple rotary phone, was now the CEO of Google.
And that brings us full circle, doesn't it? The contrast is just wild. From sleeping on the floor of a 2-bedroom apartment to a $40 million mansion in California. You know, the kind with a tennis court and a huge pool.
So that $1,000 ticket, that bet his father made with everything they had, by 2022, it had turned into a personal fortune of $1.3 billion. So what do we take away from a story like this? Well, maybe it's this really simple but powerful idea from Sundar himself. He said, if the first attempt you don't do it, you can try again. Things tend to work out in the long run. You know, it's that mix of just not giving up and believing things will work out. That's what took him from a floor in India to the absolute peak of the tech world. And it kind of leaves you wondering, right? What future are you willing to bet on?